Very good evening to everybody. This is Christopher Duigan coming to you. It's just gone a few minutes past 6 o'clock on Saturday the 5th of June, and welcome to the next in our session of In Concert, our classical music program, Saturday night program on Music Revival Online, our ongoing selection of music to accompany you through dark times, happy times, summer or winter, wherever you may be. It's been very cold here. My hands have been cold the whole day, in fact, the whole week. And I have a very fascinating program for you tonight. It is not the program that I really intended to present. A few things got away from me with the busyness of our program on Wednesday evening with the images of the deserts, Kalahari, Karoo, Namib, as well as Champagne Castle images, which was a great success. So many people have responded about the wonderful combination of images and music, and that actually took a huge amount of time to prepare that, and so I'm a little bit behind on what I was going to play tonight. However, I am going to be playing a really interesting program of lesser known classics, classic adventures, I've called it, with music by Händel, Haydn, Debussy, and a selection of Chopin waltzes to end. So I hope you are going to be able to stay with us and join us for the next hour or so with some beautiful music. The one thing, interestingly enough, when I was, I always look to see if I can find the threads that run through these programs, and the one thing that I did come up with was that, in fact, there are several pieces of music in this evening's program that I have been asked not to play, which is a bit strange, for various reasons. There are individuals who come to my concerts regularly and they say, well, please don't play that because I don't like that composer. A lot of people don't like the music of Claude Debussy for some reason. I don't know why, but I am going to play Claude Debussy tonight, and some people have said, please do not ever play the Minute Waltz once again. I am going to play that this evening. And a lot of people have said to me, I think we've heard that Händel Chaconne of yours one too many times, but I am going to play it again tonight. So jumping into this evening's selection of music, once again, if you are able to support us, I am totally dependent on your spontaneous and voluntary financial support to come through for these programs, to keep me working, to keep me earning a living, and to keep me also running these live stream sessions. So if you are able to support, please do visit my website at musicrevival.co.za. The first pieces of music I'm going to play then by Händel. I am going to play the Chaconne. This is a piece of music not many pianists play it. I've never heard anyone else play this in performance. I seem to be the only one that I've encountered that actually plays this in public performances. But it's such a great piece of music. It really brings together the brilliance and the formality, a wonderful construction of this phrase, as well as a moment of melancholy and a triumphant end. And the phrase that's repeated, it's almost like jazz, it's almost like Händel improvising. It's an 8-bar phrase of a repeated chord structure, just like jazz. The same chord structure and the same shaping of the structure of the music is repeated again and again and again. And musicians improvise around that chord structure. And in the same way, Händel improvises around the chord structure, which he presents at the beginning of the piece, and comes up with all these wonderful, exciting and intriguing, delicious, you might say, combinations of sound. And no matter how many times I play it and no matter how many different repertoires I play, this is always one of the big successes. If I play a live concert, generally everyone responds. The Händel is such a great piece of music. So it's really always a wonderfully exciting piece of music to start a program with. But before that, I'm going to play another piece of Händel, a little Adagio, the opening movement, the first movement from the suite number 2 in F major. As I've always said, Händel actually did write quite a substantial amount of keyboard music, not often played, but this is a suite that I actually should one day complete learning and bring it to you, perform it for you in one of these sessions. But there's the opening movement is a very beautiful lyrical Adagio, and after that I'll lead straight into the grand and splendid Chaconne in G. That, of course, was the Händel Chaconne, Georg Friedrich Händel's Chaconne in G, HWV 435, a piece of music that I play a lot. Often I start my concerts with that particular composition, and if you are in Pretoria, I'll be playing that at the beginning of my concert this Thursday on the 10th of June at the Atterbury Theatre as part of the Classic Music Festival. It's going to be a wonderful concert, including that Händel Chaconne, music by Beethoven, Chopin, Debussy, Rachmaninoff. And I look forward to seeing you there. Visit the website for the Atterbury Theatre, and the seating is via SeatMe, and all current required COVID protocols are observed. It's a big venue and there's lots of space, so it'll almost be like outside, but indoors. It's a good combination of both worlds. You'll notice in the titles that are brought up on that stream there that I've used Handel's original spelling of his name and his first name and his surname. Of course, Händel German born, and we often just use the anglicized version of Händel without the umlaut on the A. Actually, I guess in the original version, German version, should be Händel. And I thought, well, we'll have a change for this evening and use Händel. Thank you, Barry, correcting me there. Georg Friedrich Händel. And so I move on to music by Franz Joseph Haydn, Sonata in D major, which I'd like to play for you this evening. This is part of a selection of standard classical music, but not the popular classics. We're having a little bit of a classic adventure this evening, and I'm bringing you some standard pieces, but also some rarely played pieces, and certainly those two pieces of Händel in the beginning are very rarely played, apart from by me, where I seem to play them quite regularly. But the Haydn Sonata is a wonderful piece. Haydn wrote 52 or 53 of these sonatas, and this is a sonata in D major, which I think is going to bring a lot of energy and spirit and bright positivity to this evening's program. It's full of brilliance, it's full of excitement, like Scarlatti. When Haydn writes in the key of D major, there's a sort of royal confidence, a splendor and a brilliance and excitement that pervades the whole sonata, except for the middle movement, which is very unusual. The middle movement, the slow movement, is quite brief, and it leads directly into the third movement, but it's an absolute opposite. As opposed to all the brilliance and excitement and optimism, it's full of the most dark, heavy sound, heavy chords, despair and longing. It's really a very unique little movement in terms of Haydn's output, that Haydn seems to have this ability to really bring his deepest emotions or the kind of gestures to the form. And then, of course, the last movement, it leads directly into this last movement, which it then returns to the real joking, the twinkle in the eye that Haydn is often associated with. Very playful, full of musical little jokes, outbursts, pauses, not sure what to do next, and then he carries on. It's a very exciting and charming little movement. And the third movement, Presto, to be played fast, but before that, the Allegro first movement and the very solemn, grave, I think it is, the tempo indication, solemn with great seriousness. So this is the Sonata in D major by Franz Joseph Haydn. very exuberant ending there, the very happy, jolly, whistling and joking music of Franz Joseph Haydn. That was one of his sonatas, the sonata in D major, and a part of the standard concert repertoire, but even so, it's not something one hears all that regularly and not something that one experiences in a live concert, let alone on a live stream very often. But something we are experiencing rather often on a live stream is a visitation from Frieda. And look who's here. Hello, Frieda. Here is little Frieda. And Frieda, what are you wearing? Yes, you are wearing a Sharks jersey today. Yes, because it's cold and it's Sharks. The Sharks were playing. Yes, so the Sharks play and it's cold. I'm definitely wearing. But also, look, Frieda, you are wearing the beautiful little beaded Zulu bracelet, a necklace. It's not a bracelet, a necklace. Yes. And look how pretty it looks on you. How sweet is that? And it was a hand. Oh no, it wasn't a hand-me-down. It was an inheritance. Yes, it was an inheritance from generations ago that you've had this. Oh no, everyone suddenly arrived. Little Frieda, are you doing well? Yes, you very happy. Very happy. Frieda's doing very well. Thank you very much. And let's see who else we have got. Here's little Wendy Pop. Hello, Wendy Pop. Hello, Wendy. How are you doing? How is... Oh, you're having a little groan. Wendy Pop. What did you want to tell me? Oh, yes. Yes, Wendy Pop. You like this jacket, don't you? You think this jacket's very nice. Yes, it's a very nice jacket. In fact, you like it so much you ate it last year. Yes, you did. You had a little nibble. This is the exact one. Yes, you thought it tasted familiar, had the familiar fragrance about it. You had a nibble down the front of the buttons, and then we found a nibble on the back too, because it had fallen off the chair. And fortunately, my friend Heather, very kindly, Heather managed to darn it and stitch it back together. One of my favorite black corduroy velvet jackets, yes. And this is the one. That's why you like it so much. And you're not going to nibble it. You're going to yawn rather. No nibbling today. Thank you. Thank you, little Wendy. And then here, of course, we can't have an interval in our live stream session without little Lucy. Hello, Luce. Hello, little Lucy. Oh, yes, you are so cuddly. Yes, you've had beautiful fires, and you know how to sit upright like a little meerkat. Yes, you were watching the meerkat live streams, little inserts the other night, and you learned how to sit upright and look attentively to see what's going on. Okay. And Luce, what did you do today? Nothing. Just nothing. Just nothing. You lay around in the bed for a while, and then you lay in the sun, and then you lay here while I practice the piano, and you've just done nothing. And now you're going to sleep and snooze. That's very good. And you're going to behave yourself. There, you're doing something. You are going to behave. That's doing something, isn't it? Yes. Very good. Thanks, Luce. We'll speak to you later on. Right, so on with some more music. I'm going to move on to two compositions by Claude Debussy. As I said in the beginning, some people not a fan of Debussy's music, but I think these two pieces are very interesting. The second one is very popular, Le Plus que lent, or As Slow as Possible, or The Most Slow. It's a piece that Debussy composed in his last year of his life, but in a very light-hearted cabaret sort of style. There was this popularity in several composers, Satie, Ravel, French composers at the time, who composed in a sort of cabaret, cafe style. These became popular to compose a waltz. And Debussy, not to be left out, said, I'm going to compose the waltz, and I'm going to call it the most slow, the slowest, most bawdy, smoky, sultry waltz that I can possibly write. And this is a beautiful piece that I'm going to play for you, Le Plus que lent. But before that, I am going to play what, Barry?
Why do you always switch them? I always put the wrong titles.
Okay, I've messed up the titles. Le Plus que lent. Before that, I am going, however, to play, I don't think I switched the titles, right? I'm going to play a beautiful composition from a series of Images. Debussy wrote 3 pieces for Images and then another set in volume 2. And from the Image 1, I've often played the Reflets dans l'eau, or the Reflections in the Water. And I'd like to play for you the opening piece from the second set this evening, which is very unusual. Some people have said that this is actually not one of Debussy's best compositions, that there's something very awkward about it, and there is something very awkward and quite uncomfortable about the way it's written and to play it. And for me, it's very fascinating because it seems there are lots of magnificent ideas in the music, but they don't always hang together very well somehow. That's my feeling. Or he was trying to combine a number of pieces of music that didn't, or musical ideas that didn't actually fit together very well. And there's one of my most favorite phrases in Debussy's output, in fact, one of all of music, I think, is in the first minute or so of this composition. And in the music, Debussy is so expressive and so precise about how he suggests the performer interpret. He is very direct, often with all his music, to play with a certain sonority or play with a certain sound. But in this piece, and the translation of the title is the bells across the valley through the leaves. So there's a sense of bells and distance and a landscape. And in this beautiful phrase, which he says to be played like a haze of a rainbow. Isn't that a lovely direction? I mean, not played louder or faster or more pedal, to be played like the haze of a multicolored rainbow. It's a beautiful, beautiful phrase that he writes there. So this is the first piece I'm going to start with, the clock, the bells through the leaves across the valley, and the second piece, le plus lent, or the slowest possible. Those were two compositions by Claude Debussy. First of all, the bells across the valley through the trees, the first of the pieces of Image Series 2. I think I'd like to play that whole sequence of 3 pieces for you one day. And then after that, the beautiful Café Waltz, Le Plus Galant, or the most slow, the slowest possible. And really, always, I don't know, some people, as I say, some people don't like Debussy's music. They don't find it engaging, but I find it absolutely fascinating and love working on it and love playing it. I'm going to end off this evening's program. Might have been a bit ambitious with my selection, but I'm going to soldier on with a selection of 4 waltzes, although 2 of them are very short. I'm going to play from the selection of Chopin waltzes, a number of pieces which I've been very fascinated by for many years. And these are often grouped in selections with nocturnes and other short of Chopin's pieces, short items together. But I thought it's very interesting to hear a selection of waltzes in a sequence and to see how Chopin might have created something different under the same name of a waltz. And the first one is a very melancholic, a very slow waltz in B minor. The second, very bright, very short in F major. The third, the very famous minute waltz in D flat major. So I say a piece of music that people have asked me not to play because they don't like it, but that's just their personal choice. I think it's quite a great piece and it's just lovely on its own, and I'm going to try and play it with great enthusiasm and not just to play it in under a minute. And then the last waltz, quite a grand extended piece in A flat opus 42. And you'll see that some of these pieces, some of the waltzes like the second and third ones of the 4 are, have just it's an interesting contrasting midsections. The middle section of the piece is maybe a little bit quieter, a little bit more restful, whereas the last one has a whole sequence of contrasting melodies which are joined together by these recurring refrains, and then a very brilliant and outgoing final moment to end. tricky ending to that waltz. Just every little hurdle gets thrown at you at once. So those were 4 of Chopin waltzes, of the Chopin waltzes. There are a number of more, but I thought it'd be a fascinating experience, even though I've played them and one does often hear them 1 or 2, to hear a sequence of them together to see how they actually compare to one another. So those were the waltzes in B minor, in F major, D flat in a minute waltz, and ending off with the celebrated waltz in A flat. Yes, Lucy, I know you like that one the most. Oh gosh, yes, come she come. So if you are watching, and this does bring us to the end of our piano in concert session on Saturday, the 5th of June, and please do continue supporting us. You'll see the QR codes. There was a little bit of a hiccup with one of the QR codes last week. Simple story was that when I started this event and Quicket in March 2020, I thought it was going to last a week, and then I extended it to a few months and then a year, and now of course it is 14 months later, and the faraway date that I had set had expired, so it is reopened. Quicket is one of the QR codes there, the other is Yoko, which will take credit cards directly. Please do continue to support me, because this is the only way, as I say, that I'm able to make a living at the moment that's fairly justified, not encouraging people to gather in small spaces. And even Lucy is making a guest appearance again. Lucy do you have a fee, Luce? What's your fee to appear? I've never asked you. I've just been taking advantage of the fact that you're always here. I've never asked you. What's your professional fee? Nothing. Just nothing. Okay, Luce. Well, that's very kind of you. You can have a snuggle, and we'll give you an extra treat maybe after the show. Yes, I think you would like that. Little Lucy, the star of the show. Thank you to Barry for his technical support this evening. Thank you for everyone who's watching, and for those of you who have supported us in the last weeks, especially after last Wednesday's fascinating visual and music session. And do join me next Wednesday for another fascinating and wonderful program. Oh, loose, that was almost. Fascinating program on Wednesday evening, and piano hour with another varied selection of music. Have a good evening, look after yourself, stay well, and we'll see you very, very soon.